on the tables of Nigeria without being scared of whether if they will be picked up and be asked for ransom for as small as 250,000 naira. Now, because we never nipped it at the birth when it was a crisis in the Niger Delta. What I'm saying here is this, is that everywhere in the world, the strength of every nation, it is how large, it is how diverse, it is the understanding that you all have among ourselves. Today is changing. Before, it used to be a taboo for the woman in Patani to say you want to get somebody married in Sokoto. They say, oh, God forbid bad thing. How? And all that. But we forgot that far back as 1857, there was a trade going on between Sokoto and Ahoda. The man in Sokoto will bring in onions to Ahoda and go back with oil, palm oil. And this is what made us who we are. The trade exchange in Opobo, in Ka, Taeleme, here has gone on between the man in Eleme and the man in Kaduna here. Who knew the importance of ginger? 14% of the ginger consumed in Southeast Asia is from Kaduna State here. But there has been this total trade within ourselves. Christmas is not complete to anybody in Nigeria if you do not in any way slaughter the Sokoto red goat. But how does it come? There is somebody responsible for it. So until I recognize the strength of my brother in the Niger Delta, he knew he recognizes my strength and would appreciate each other. And then, of course, we can. When you hold one single broom, it's easy for you to break it, but it's always very difficult to break a bunch of broom. So, what is the strength of this country today is for us, first of all, appreciate each other. Look at the man in Bokos. The only place that you can grow potato today in the whole of West Africa is Plateau State. And the last time we had seedlings for potato for the farmers in there is between 1976 and 1974. We've not replaced it. Now, it should be, as he's worried to me, you should also be worried to Dr. Kyo and my brothers, maybe that are in Lagos or in Benin and all that there, because this is our strength. Today, I shouldn't be seeing the problem in Benin as something that should not affect me, because today, with what has happened in in the Northeast, today we've seen that, yes, it could go a long way.
All right, Madeleine Shadrach, the food advocate, bringing the food perspective into what ordinarily should help unite us and foster national integration. I mean, if we're hungry, rather, I doubt if we can drive this program today. Neither can our guests, our viewers who are out there. Very useful perspective that you brought along, of course, with the other guests. Gentlemen, I come back to Dr. Chris Kyo. We often, would lacerate the Nigerian elite, and the point was made sometime in the past that religion and ethnicity provide a refuge, for the scoundrels amongst the Nigerian elite class to drive their own selfish agenda. How come, breaking it down to what we have on our table, we seem unable as an elite group, and this will, of course, with all of us who are in here, as well as those who belong to the intelligentsia and the political and business groups, to seek to harness these positive forces that unite rather than chase those things that divide us?
Again, I'll quickly hinge it on the word I call greed. The perception of the elitist class is to primitively accumulate wealth. Now, that means that at every point in time, the drive of the policies they are going to make will consider first the self-benefit. It's playing out in the executive, it's playing out in the National Assembly, it's playing out even in the judiciary, it's playing out even in the religious houses. So you have churches built by church money, and then the church members can't attend it because it is for profit. Now, Taisha Larin built a school, Mayflower. It was open for, he wasn't a Christian or a Muslim, but it was open for everybody, and it's still there. And it was one of the cheapest and one of the best. So that greed factor is why we have what you call a log in our eyes, and we do not see the country as one. Because let me tell you, let's paint pictures here. Take the Niger Delta. We have advocated for development of the region. If the Niger Delta was developed, it's Nigeria that will be developed. If it was a tourist haven, it's Nigeria that will get the money to come. It's tourism. Dubai, for instance, has been developed. We all go there now. but you see, the Niger Delta will keep shouting, it's our oil, develop our region. And somebody else in somewhere say, why are they talking it's their oil? It's not their oil. It's Nigerians' oil. Okay, if that's what they're doing, we won't bother. the man in Karanamuda, if you go there, you think that Nigeria is a learning place. It's in the bush. There's nothing there, no light, no water. And he also feels that he's alienated. Now, nobody is talking, everybody's talking their own, nobody's talking for everybody. That's where we are. So the elite sits down and says, okay, since they are this divided, let's divide them further so they don't get together and we fix it. But we are saying here that unless we dump our greed on the table and become more patriotic, more nationalistic, more focused in dealing with the issues, we won't get it right. So even when you set up a national project, the people who are designing the project begin to look at how it benefits them directly. Right. So if you're putting a rail, rather than put a rail that will serve the majority of the people, you divert the rail track to suit your community and your people or yourself so you can go home with ease. So if you are setting up a power plant, you look at where it's convenient to give your community light at the expense of the rest. So if you are going to give solar light, for instance, in NDDC, you sit down and you say you want to give electricity, so you put the solar lights in your communities. Whether they work or not, you just want to do it because you want to make the quick money. I have wondered, for instance, why spend so much on solar light when you could just set up a gas turbine and power the whole place? So most of even the project conceived in Nigeria is conceived to suit the man in power or the man who calls the shot, not a national interest. And that's why this national integration is key. It will take off the veil from our eyes. We would understand our strength. I enjoyed Madeleine when he was talking about food. As simple as food, it integrates us. The polity is supposed to integrate us. I believe that. I believe that political parties, are supposed to be platforms to access office. But once you get into office, you become a Nigerian at a point, and you begin to do a Nigerian thing. Now, that's the point we're trying to make. The young people have been so disillusioned with what we have found ourselves into, and we're beginning to think that we're different people. I speak with a lot of people. I hear people who say we want to restructure, and I ask them, what kind of structure do you want out of the restructure? And I can say here without fear or favor that there's no one section of Nigeria that can go its own hog and be better than Nigeria put together. So why do we want to go our separate ways? We're stronger in our diversity. We have the capacity. We are 180 million and above. We have intelligentsias everywhere. Can't we harness this and drive the process? The same way with which we are building Abuja as our center of national unity can be expanded to build every other state, every other nation with commitment to serve nationalistic interests. So the greed factor needs to go. The other one is the religion. Let me tell you, we're sitting here, we're Muslims, we're Christians, we're maybe even pagans. If this studio got on fire, our religion will not count again. What counts is our ability to escape unhurt.
If you are covered by the blood of...
It will not count again when there's fire. So you see, religion is only a man's personal conception of his God. It shouldn't be a factor on the table for development. Now, if we talk about our region, they were for administrative purposes. So you create states and local governments and south, north, east, northwest, north central. It shouldn't become a small country of its own anyway. It's for administrative convenience to be able to locate and identify and share our national patrimony. The country started very well. We had the federal character that reflects that. Even the weak must be represented in everything. We had the unity schools, the federal government schools, where people from Karanamuda were going to school in Onitsha, FGGC Onitsha. And I got admission in Maiduguri. I couldn't go. I was too small. My father was like, you can't go. So, but eventually I insisted I must go to the north. I went to Niger State where I had a relative to school. So, and today, I speak good Hausa. So I've seen Hausa guys who speak other languages. Our diversity should be our strength. But what we have done, is it the army? If you go to a barrack, it's a miniature Nigeria where you have everything happening together. But you see, it ends in the barrack. When we get out, we begin to see our regions, our states, our tribe. So we need to come back to the table and get this integration to help us drive the process. That way, we will not care where our president comes from. We will not care where our governor comes from. What we care about is how do you fix our issues.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Chris Akia. Lots of talking points you have raised, but I'd like to continue from one of them that you just raised now. And I'd like Dr. Abubakar to speak to this issue of the political elites. Of course, some people have, some commentators have said political elites are the problem that we have in this country, looking at the level of greed, what people want to acquire for themselves, forgetting the people that actually elected them. But then the National Assembly, where you are, what is it doing? Especially Dr. Chris raised the issue of, projects are being brought in like solar lights, We know these things are not even beneficial to some of these communities. They're not working. But what is the National Assembly doing to checkmate these things, the projects that are brought in? What is the National Assembly doing to checkmate some of these things?
Thank you very much. I want to start by saying that one of the institutionalized attempts at unifying this country is manifested in even having a House of Representatives and the National Assembly as it subsists. We have an aggregate of representation from across all the nooks and crannies of this country. So I want to say that any able representative, when you talk about projects that are beneficial to their constituencies, first of all, any able representative must first of all do the primary, the primary activity of a legislator is to actually represent. Representing cannot be effective if there is no feedback, and you have to be very conversant with your constituency. So if you're conversant with your constituency, you must have a good needs assessment, at your tip of your constituency. So whatever it is that you're bringing into, trying to lobby into the projects that will be done in your constituency must come from the background of your knowledge of your constituency and your needs assessment and interaction with your people on what is paramount to them. So if you're even doing proper representation, the issue of bringing a project that the people do not need does not even arise. Anybody that takes a project that is not needed in the constituency is not doing effective representation, because that is where your source of projects you must put in the budget or try to lobby for as constituency intervention must come from. Beyond that, the issue of projects not working is a different thing. It's a Nigerian malady. Sometimes we have contractors who are not properly doing this contract, or we have MDAs that are not properly supervising. So that is the problem. It's not just constituency projects. Our roads also have this challenge. Our other, institutional infrastructural developments as in the country have this challenge. So we need to make sure that happens. But
my question is, how do we factor national interest into the process?
Yeah, the aggregate of the constitution of the different constituency interests is actually what manifests into national interest. And beyond that, there is also the fact that I'm representing Ilorin East, Ilorin South Federal Constituency does not mean that I should not go there and support or even move a motion that will benefit Nigeria. A lot of us see ourselves at the National Assembly first and foremost. We have the bigger constituency, which is Nigeria, before we talk about our, the constituency that voted us to represent them. Because there, we are all Nigerians and representatives of, the Nigerian people. So, but at some point in time, you break it down to the particular constituency that you represent. I just want to say a little. My colleagues here, I also want to compliment my colleague that used the food example to underscore our unity and how we can tap into this diversity of food and how we are interwoven and interdependent on each other. Beyond that, I also want to say that I'm a product of a unity school, and I went to Federal Government College Ilorin, and I had friends from everywhere. That was my first contact with people across this country, and I was exposed to all the different cultural groups in this country. So I think the problem, we as Nigerians, we talk a lot, but we don't take steps. Our former leaders, particularly, I must mention General Yakubu Gowon, did some deliberate interventional steps that is still, that accounted for the fact that Nigeria has remained one singular entity. But what new steps are we taking? He started the unity schools. He started the NYSC. Look, these are the major strategic things that are put in place that are still unified this nation. I still have friends from across the country because of the unity schools. With the coming of technology, my group is, my classmates and my schoolmates are very active on the social media groups. So I have friends from across the country. There's nowhere in this country I go to. I see myself as a detribalized Nigerian.
Yeah, well, that's the point, Dr. Ambuda Kaneke Abubakar. That's the point. I mean, a number of us, and I'm sure our viewers also have friends from different parts of the country. Now, before the outbreak of the Civil War, I mean, you lived with all kinds of persons from different ethnic backgrounds. But once the original sin came on, that was first in 1966 with the military coup, and then the outbreak of the Civil War, this country, according to some persons, changed. And we've already seen some of the pathologies that Dr. Chris Akio, has already referenced, namely with the exacerbation of religion, ethnicity, political greed, and as well as financial greed. For some 50 years or thereabouts, some persons would argue that we've been in the wilderness and therefore been unable to harness the positives in us that Shadrach articulated using, the food and idea. How can we now begin to make our way out of the thicket in which we have found ourselves? To say, look, Abubakar has friends all over, Kiyo has friends all over, Rhoda and I and yourself and several others out there, we have friends all over. So that when we come to the national table, we deal with ourselves as Nigerians rather than, as ethnic champions.
My big brother, once the only tools a nation have is a hammer, then every problem becomes a nail. The Sardauna of Sokoto was picking somebody from Boko, the Taka. He didn't look at where they were, where they're from. Can you deliver? We have the Sunday Awoniyi, the late Sunday Awoniyi here. We never build up from the precedents that our four leaders. I want to say one very little story here. When we were discharged from the NYC camp, we found myself looking for a place for accommodation. I went to a church in Constitution Road in Banawa. They said the last coppers that came there stole the fluorescent tube starter. And I was accommodated by Mama Kankia in Sultan Ahmadu Bello Mosque. And on Sunday, he wakes me up to show me the next church at Hayambanki. And I stayed in the house for 90 days. That is 3 months. Earth, Tuo, a boy who had just left from University of Port Harcourt to come to Kaduna. But from then, and that's one of the things that made me stay back. And I said, I'm not going nowhere. This is my place. So the comfort, the reception, if I had been treated bad by that person here, I would have passed it today. None of my children that do not have names that symbolizes where they were born, which is in the north. And today, nobody will ever one day ask me that I'm not a northerner. So what I'm saying is that we need to come out of this. One of the biggest binding force that has kept us together today is what I've just mentioned here, which is food. I've not gone to any market and I see PDP or APC, ABGA written on yams or written on watermelons.
Yeah, but sometimes they use those to package.
Yes. Well, even when you put them on, you will never see them in here. And it is very, very important that Nigerians begin to unveil these things and find out that this white lies that is being painted to us are not going to be accepted anymore.
All right, thank you very much. Very quickly, Dr. Chris Akiyo, let's get your final thoughts on this.
Well, we've identified a problem that we're divided and we're just pretending to be together. And that's why we're putting up this summit. And we are going to be in Port Harcourt on Saturday. We're asking Nigerians to tune in. We're asking as many persons who are interested to go on our social media platform and make contributions. Let's take out the conflicts and look between the matrices for those fine lines that can bind us. Let's walk the road. What we are calling for is a critical mass of people. If we have 2 million Nigerians thinking integration, we'll overrun the people who don't want to think integration. So I strongly believe that Nigerians must integrate so we can get it right. And if we don't integrate, no section can get it right. It will just be a merry-go-round. That's how I see it.
All right, thank you very much. And then very briefly now from Dr. Abubakar, are you hopeful about prospects for national integration?
Yeah, I'm very, very confident that we can be integrated and optimize the benefits of integration. But I must also quickly add that the government must make deliberate efforts. I cited the efforts that was made by past leadership. We must start new things that will integrate us. We must consider the idea of having a common Nigerian language, which is going to be harmonized across all the a hybrid of all Nigerian languages. We must make some other deliberate things that will be cohesive rather than divisive. And this will help us in, identifying. We must break down patriotism and teach it at the elementary school. And we must make sure that our unity schools are preserved. Thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Abubakar, a member of the House of Representatives, thank you very much. Perhaps we look forward to a bill from you with regard to the last point you just made.
Thank you.
Okay, we also would like to thank Dr. Chris Akiyo. He's, of course, a regular face on Good Morning Nigeria. He's a former President of Ijaw Youth Council. Dr. Chris Akiyo, thank you for being with us on the program today.
Thank you.
And of course, the food advocate, Mr. Madleon Shadrach. Thank you very much for being with us. He has a Texan hat. Are you voting in the U.S. election today? And his boots as well. All right. Thank you for being part of our discussion this morning. All right. So it's still Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll take on our second item for discussion this morning, the historic U.S. election taking place today.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
On a white sheet of exam paper, I am calm like a sniper, bam like a piper, glam like a rapper. I'm never a slacker.
Fail like a failure.
How was your result?
This wicked girls here was gave me.
Then give me...
They gave me 7 E's.
This week on your award-winning comedy series, Professor John Bull, starring Kanayo Okanayo, Mercy Johnson, Queen Wokoye, Yomi Fashlanso, Stephen Odingbe.
Address me as the Onowu. My title is waiting for me.
Oh no, we're waiting.
Onowu?
Mr. Owowu.
No, I can't take that.
Olowu.
Hey, I don't like all this.
What is that name they call you all over the campus?
Flashbird with a big splash, depending on how you want to lash.
Big name that kills a small dog.
Professor John Bull, fasten your seatbelts this Tuesday and Friday, 8:30 to 9 p.m. on NTA Network, International, and Star Times. It's absolutely bombastic.
Over and out. Welcome to the new speed of life.
People think it's the ever-changing weather during Harmattan that makes them sick. Actually, it's the germs. Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs, including flu.
Does your antiseptic liquid kill the germs that cause flu, diarrhea, typhoid? Dettol does. Dettol provides 10 times more protection versus leading competition. So why take a risk with your loved ones?
It's not just a contest for the next president of the United States.
It is a tussle for the world's most powerful position.
She says
10 people who have had that awesome responsibility have come out and in an unprecedented way said they would not trust Donald Trump with the nuclear codes or to have his finger on the nuclear button.
And he says
the thing that you should be apologizing for are the 33,000 emails that you deleted.
What are the Americans saying?
What are Nigerians saying?
On election night, November 8th, the NTA brings you America Decides, an all-night ear-to-the-ground coverage of the U.S. presidential elections.
Analysis from the United States, experts in our studio, reports from the U.S., and unique African perspective on the race for Obama's successor.
All you need to know about the U.S. presidential elections from nomination to victory.
America Decides. 10:30 p.m. Tuesday, November 8th till the early hours of Wednesday, November 9. America Decides. She or he.
Welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, and our next item for discussion, our second focus this morning, is of course on the historic U.S. presidential elections. And we have with us to discuss this morning Obo Efanga. He's a governance program manager, Action Aid Nigeria. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. And also we have joining us Dr. Aliyu Idihong. He is former Minister of State, Foreign Affairs. He's also joined us on this discussion. Honorable, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then we have joined us from our Kaduna Network studios at this time, Ambassador Bulus Lolo. He's a former Permanent Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs. We had him a long while ago. That was last year, I believe, on Good Morning Nigeria. Ambassador Lolo, it's a pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Very much, and good morning all. I was with you last week, actually.
I was off last week. All right, so thanks a lot. Then we also have joining us from New Jersey via Skype at this time, Honorable Anthony Afolo is a broadcast journalist as well as media, of course, analyst, and a member of the African Commission in New Jersey and Commissioner for Humanitarian and Social Development. That's Anthony Afolo. Our pleasure to have you on the program. All right, we understand there's some audio snag. We hope we're able to resolve that. We're actually going to kick off the conversation with Afolo there in New Jersey. That's on the East Coast. At this time, that's the East Coast is about 6 hours behind us. Now that's after 2 in the morning. So we'll try and reconnect with him so that we get his views, giving us an indication of what is rolling off on E-Day. But let's begin this conversation, gentlemen. Dr. Eddie Hong, former Minister of State Foreign Affairs. That's all kinds of perspectives we have on this year's presidential election. Some say there is a sense in which America has veered, towards a kind of syndrome you find in the pejoratively in the third world, politics of hate, politics of bitterness, and so on and so forth. It's been a bitter campaign, but yet voting is taking place today. For us as a people and as a country, we also model our democracy, our constitutional democracy, on the American system. What lessons are inherent in what we are seeing in the U.S. presidential election?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. I want to begin by saying that the American election is very important for every nation in the world. Positively for certain countries and negatively for certain countries. So you will be surprised to the extent to which Nigerians and so many people all over the world are being interested about this election, because it determines a lot of factors in what happens in the future, especially in the next 4 years. And sadly also, just like from your introduction, I think we have not seen the nature of elections in United States elections as what is happening, playing out in recent time, because the ethics, the etiquette of democratic principles have been thrown to the winds. And we have seen a third world politics emanating from United States election this year, because times past, American election is based on principles, is based on elections, is based on issues-based campaign. But this time around, it has been reduced to individuals and persons, and also mudslinging type of election. I think that is what we have seen new. And most importantly, as a country, we as Nigerians or any other person outside America has no vote in this election. But we are keenly watching and also praying, because there are certain factors and certain persons that if they emerge as president of the United States of America, I think a lot will go wrong. So people are praying fervently and also wishing. And most importantly also, there are persons that even though they are not perfect, but maybe for stability, for democracy, for freedom and justice, may be fairly better, because this is a selection, like the white man says, that you are between the devil and the deep sea. Which one is better? You have to choose. We are now looking for stability this time around. That is what is happening. With that being said, I will tell you that Nigeria as a government have no special interest in this election, particularly about the candidates. But we are also observing, and also we are looking at the history of the people. What Nigeria wishes is the continuity of the relationship we are having with this country, the continuity of the stability of the world, and also you are looking for a predictability of the president which you are going to deal with. That is what is essential for us as a nation.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Aliyu Idehong. But then let's get to Ambassador Bulus Lulu. Of course, you were with me last week on the program. I'd like to take it from where Kingsley stopped and said, as a country, looking at the way that the whole of this campaign has played out, the hate speech and how divisive it has become, what is it that we should learn from this? And perhaps, Dr. Aliyu, Ambassador Aliyu said something now. He said, we're praying, the world is watching and hoping somebody. But then last week you said, it is something that we have to be prepared for, whoever wins this election. We're praying, we're hoping means that, there's some kind of fear, and not just in Nigeria, all over the world, to be very specific. But then is this something that people have to be prepared for?
Thank you, and once again, it's a pleasure to be on the program. The American election, just like Dr. Edie Hong has said, is something that is of interest to the entire world. And for us in Nigeria, we should be prepared for an America that will not be the same or as we have seen. It's often the case during an election, Americans are worried about what they call their pocketbook, which is the economy. But this time, there is this whole fear of security. Which direction will they go? Migrants are going around the world. We see them on the boats every day across the Mediterranean, trying to cross into the European Union. And so we should be prepared for an America that will be more interventionist if Clinton wins, or more isolationist if Donald Trump wins. But whatever the case may be, the example that America holds for us is that every 4 years, you will expect an election to take place. And America also holds the example for the rest of the world that ethnicity doesn't matter. Once you become a US citizen, there are offices you can aspire to, bar the presidency if you are not born in the United States. Now, if we in this country can embrace a culture that allows me, coming from Kaduna State, maybe to go to Enugu State where I did my NYSC and aspire to occupy a political office, not list even the governorship in that state, then I think we would have gone a long way. But whatever the case may be, in another 6 hours or so, Americans will start the vote, and hours later we will know who, depending of course, as Donald Trump said, that if he wins the election, he will absolutely accept the result. And by implication, if Clinton wins, he will wait until the moment before he will decide whether to congratulate her in keeping with the culture, or he will contest as we saw in 2000. But the die is cast as it is, and today is the D-Day in America.
Ambassador Lolo, thank you very much. You raised one important point. Incidentally, the first topic that we had on the program this morning had to do with the propagation of national integration. You said, look, ethnicity is irrelevant, where you come from is irrelevant. We also saw that the ticket of Al Gore and Bill Clinton, they were both from the South. They were president and vice president, again, pretty unusual. But that's the question I actually want to ask Obo Efanga, it's Governance Program Manager at Action Aid in Nigeria. What we have heard less in the campaign is that, look, Hillary Clinton is actually the wife of a former president. And we have also had the incidents, again, in recent times, where you had a father as president and a son later as president. Is that possible in this environment where all kinds of issues will be raised about the formation of a dynasty?
Well, interesting. On paper, it is possible. I mean, looking at the Constitution, nothing stops the wife of a former president or the son of a former president from aspiring, or the son of a former governor from aspiring to be governor. But in practice, because we have this tendency of looking at where the person comes from, so people will start saying, no, this time it should go to this part of the country. And even when it goes there, you'll hear people say things like, the last time it came here, it was somebody from this axis that got it. So we zone everything down to the minutest point. So I hope that we could have a situation where that happens. But then, it is important for us to know that even though these persons are related to persons who have been in government before, the final say resides with the people. So it wasn't a situation where they were foisted on the people, on the country as candidates of the political parties. They had to pass through the mills. And if you see, if you know, I mean, you know how the candidates emerge. It is virtually like a general election, because every citizen there who is a member of a political party has the opportunity of voting who they want to be the candidate. So to that extent, it gives freedom to the citizens to decide who eventually becomes the candidate. Not necessarily that, like we have in Nigeria, where you'll have a small clique within a political party determining who should be the candidate. And then they will want to force it on the rest of the party. And that's when you'll hear things like consensus candidates and all that.
All right, Obo Ifanga, thank you very much. Now, we understand we've been able to re-establish links with Anthony Afolo. We tried to join him a moment ago. You can see him on the right side of your split screen. He's joining us via Skype from New Jersey. That's on the east coast of the U.S. Honorable Anthony Afolo, a pleasure to have you again on the program. And then just to roll, of course, the die is cast, as our guests have said, and as the whole world knows. What, in your opinion, are the likely deciding factors? I'm sure in another 24 hours, the winner will have emerged.
Let me say thank you again for having me on the program. It is some part of the United States this morning, they've already started voting. And as a matter of fact, we've already had about 40 million people vote from absentee ballots and all of that. So I would say that perhaps a third, if not a fourth, of the potential votes has been already cast. The way things are going here, let me just go back to what the last speaker was talking about, and that's to do with the candidates themselves. Hillary not only resided at the White House for 8 years as the spouse of the former, president. We also have in Hillary someone that's been a senator from New York that represented New York for many years. Also, Hillary, as we all know, served also as Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013. So we have we have somebody coming in with experience, as opposed to the other candidates whom you well know. The way things are going, I am cautiously optimistic, that at the end of the day, the election would go in favor of the Democrats. That's just been my observation. That's because, again, she possessed the quality that we need in a candidate for such a prestigious, position, perhaps the most important position in the world. I'm expectant that at the end of the day, Hillary will emerge the winner because of the experience that she carries and for the experience that the other candidate lacks very much.
Honorable Anthony Afolo, I'd like to still stay with you a little bit. Well, we know that certain issues decide who wins the American election. One of them is the black votes and, of course, the Hispanics. But so far, from data that we're getting, so far you've said 40 million people have voted. But the turnout of, the blacks has been, although the Hispanics, we've seen them turn out more than they did in the last election, at least 89% from what we know. But then we haven't seen a large turnout of African Americans turning up. Is that what we would see throughout the day, or we'll probably see a difference as the day dawns over there?
The polls that you're looking at, suggest the African Americans are not coming out yet to vote. They don't have. There is more to that inaccuracy. I mean, we're not very sure that they've been out or not out. Certainly, they confirmed that the Hispanic votes is gone up tremendously, and mostly going in favor of the Democrats. The black votes, I'm confident, they will come out if they haven't already done that. Today is the election. The polls are open at different times, at different places. You're going to see buses going to various locations. What people are doing, what I observe they're doing, is to compare the turnout of the black votes for Obama with the turnout, what the potential turnout will be for Hillary. We are not, even Hillary's camp, I don't believe that they're expecting that they would have that much turnout when you compare to the Obama turnout. However, I believe strongly that the people will be out in support of Hillary. Hillary, as we know, probably commands 95%, if not more, of the black votes. Yes, The people need to come out, and I believe they will.
All right, Honorable Anthony Afolo, thank you very much. We'll come back to you in the course of the remainder part of this conversation. Let's return to Dr. Eddie Hong. Dr. Eddie Hong, I mean, there is a sense in which what we are seeing today, what the world is witnessing in 2016 is similar to what happened in 2008, where America was on the threshold of making a choice between its first African-American president and, of course, a white candidate. And then you have today America perched also on the verge of history, having perhaps its first female president will be the most powerful person in the world. Is there any sense in which the experience of 2008, might impact on the likely outcome of today's election?
Yeah, there is, because analysts have made this insinuation that perhaps 2008 is be repeated in 2016. In the instance that Hillary being a woman and being a candidate for the first time of the major two political parties emerging, and also Donald Trump being an outsider in the political cycle, being a first-timer politically aspiring to the office of the president. America has never witnessed anything like this before. I think this is a new repeat. But the most interesting fact about this is that it is actually a serious contest that is really play out like the 2008, because almost all the factors that were at play in 2008 is also manifesting. You find out that almost virtually all American women are very interested about this election, partly because they are having one of their own, aspiring to the office of the president, which is a very, very encouraging development in the United States. Secondly, they are also being challenged by the other candidate of the major political party who has really not really respected their humanity very much. So it is a challenge for them also to come out to show and deal blow to him that we are human beings with equal right like every other citizen of the United States. They want to play a role. And also the issues that come up in the course of the campaigns, which also alienated certain populations of the United States, particularly Hispanics, African Americans, women, college graduate white population, then also minorities, because in the course of all the campaigns you have seen the reactions of the other candidates. So this has now trumped up the movement you are seeing that to an extent is another survival instinct now. Who are you going for? Will you allow the system to go and degenerate to uncontrollable circumstance, or are you looking for a stability irrespective of what is the inadequacies of the other candidate? I think 2008 is likely going to play out, and I hope and pray particularly the African Americans will really come out the way the Latinos are coming out. So far from the statistics, there has been remarkable output of the Latinos coming for this absentee ballot that has been casted in most of the states so far. And the blacks, we hope that they will also come out to meet up these numbers, because once that is done, so most of the swing states we are seeing, where it's a battleground, will swing toward the Democratic candidate, because most of the candidates who are going to determine the victory of those states are likely going to be those demographics of the women, the Latinos, the African Americans will determine the swings.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Aliyu Diong. But then let's get to Ambassador Bulus Lolo. We were talking about absentee, voting right now. That's a pattern that's quite interesting, that you could go. We saw in the last 2 weeks, people have been coming out to vote. We know it just brings to mind the pattern or the way that they vote over there. People might not be around. You go cast your votes, and you could not be around on that day. You could vote via email. But then looking at what we have here, where is there a comparison to that? Could we see that playing out even as far as looking at, people voting outside of the country? That has been an issue for a while.
Rhoda, don't forget that ours is still a growing nation, and our democracy compared to the U.S. democracy is an infant, but one in which we are seeing very positive signs of healthy growth. Absentee voting in the United States is something that defines the character of the American electoral system. And a very quick word about whether or not 2008 will be mirrored in 2016. In 2008, when Obama contested, he represented a hope that had never been seen for a community in America that had been marginalized, and that is the black community. So when one of them, against all odds, made it to be candidate, they saw in him a representation of each and every one of them. So he carried the pride, the hope, and the aspiration of the African-American citizens in the United States. But whether or not Hillary represents the same hope for them, I think it is pretty clear. Now, if there is lethargy on the part of African Americans, it is because they would say they've invested so much in the system and they have gotten very little back. And for them, it is no point going out to queue and not get much out of the system. The comparison you want me to make about Nigeria and the United States and whether we will ever get to the point where we will have absentee voting will only happen if we put an end to the culture of ballot snatching. It will end if we put an end to the issue of more votes cast than people who are registered in a given polling area. And it will also end if we learn to accept and put the right caliber of people to do the things that we want them to do. You cannot expect to bring a mediocre to carry out a task and expect a result that is sterling. If you put your expert, if you put your well-endowed person to carry out your task, you should expect a good result. And I give you this example, for instance. You go into an aircraft, you hear an announcement made, I'm Captain Lolo in the cockpit. I failed my flight courses and examinations, but I'm very happy to fly you to Lagos. There will be panic across, not only in the aircraft, but definitely people who are monitoring me speak will wonder what sort of people are we. But that seems to be the case in this country, that occasionally we put people who are not competent to do very difficult tasks. So I hope and pray that yes, we will accommodate someday through the amendment of our Electoral Act to allow our diaspora to vote, to allow people also who are absent to vote early. That way we will minimize the mayhem that we sometimes witness on polling day in Nigeria.
Okay, Captain, sorry, I was going to say Captain Lulu as the example you gave, of course, distinguished ambassador and former permanent secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for your insight. I would like us to take a comment from Anthony Afolo in New Jersey. Again, for the benefit of our viewers who may not have a clear idea of election law in the U.S. or election jurisprudence, different states appear to have different electoral laws, and therefore you do not have a one size that fits all the states and principalities of or territories of the United States. Perhaps you can also just give us an insight into this so that we have a clearer understanding for the benefit of our viewers.
An expert in the election, rules, and regulations, but what I can tell you is that we do have some form of uniformity in terms of what is expected of a voter. The things that you have to meet in order to qualify, to vote. One being, of course, that you have to be a United States citizen. You have to be a registered voter, and I'm sure they've taken measures to make sure that any form of irregularities does not exist.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Anthony Afolo. Let's return to Oboefanga. Again, we have indicated that, look, it's now down to the wire, 2 candidates. And Dr. Idi Hong indicated that, look, everyone else around the world is praying and hoping that a certain candidate doesn't emerge on account of the reading of that particular candidate. But yet, Ambassador Lolo says, look, Nigeria and the rest of the world has to be prepared for any eventuality. What's your take on this? 24 hours, the results should be out, by the way.
Yes, well, I share the hope of many people, especially in Nigeria, as to who should be the winner of the election. I'm also conscious of the fact that the decision is that of the American citizens. And like I told people before now, many people could not imagine that a Donald Trump could emerge as a candidate of a political party. And the moment he emerged, I said what it means is that he could be the president. And to the extent that, like I said, the fact is that for you to emerge a candidate, you would have a large number of followers. And that is what has shown. Because for him to emerge a candidate of the Republican Party, he had to go through the processes. And he was actually voted for by regular, ordinary citizens. It wasn't a group of few persons who decided, like delegates. So you could say that, well, it was possible to maybe compromise delegates, but this was general. And so to the extent that he won that, it's also possible that he could win the general elections. And so, like you said, Nigerians or people around the world should be prepared for a possibility. Yes, the polls have shown that the likelihood of him winning is slightly less than the likelihood of Hillary Clinton winning, but it could go either way.
Well, Dr. Eddie Hong, former Minister of State Foreign Affairs, what does a day like this mean for the diplomatic community worldwide?
Every nation in the world today is working assiduously toward preparing itself for what America becomes tomorrow morning. Just like Ambassador Lolo said, every nation will have the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. You are working on it. And everybody has prepared its mind about what is the likely outcome and how to go about it. Because based on the utterances of one of the candidates, it seems like so many countries have already gone to their drawing board to make sure that they are preparing for the worst case scenario. Just like my partner, colleague here says, actually, it really baffles everybody how Donald Trump emerged as a candidate. So once he emerged as a candidate, you will not rule him out because the possibility is not zero. It's likely, and even from the indices, he still has a small chance of becoming elected as a president. So countries and diplomatic communities are really working and thinking about how to live with the president of America in the person of Donald Trump. So all are preparing for the worst case scenario and the best case scenario, because you can't wait until the damage has been done before you start preparing for it. So people are preparing, and I know for sure that the world will never be the same again if something happens with this election, because the mindset, people have already prepared to alienate themselves, and just like Ambassador Lolo have said, Donald Trump is taking America toward isolation, while what we used to know America with as being a global player, interventionist, and collective leadership around almost all countries of the world will not be the same again. Because even the closest allies of the United States will have to have a rethink about their diplomatic relationship with the United States of America if he so emerges as a president.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Aliyu Idi Hong. But then let's get the final thoughts of Anthony Afolo, who is in the U.S., in New Jersey. Well, what are your final thoughts on this? Florida, Pennsylvania, Nevada, these are swing states that could swing this election today. Well, what's your take on this?
To the last speaker, what they're saying, the beauty of American politics is the inclusivity, of it all. Anyone can participate once you meet the requirements. How did we get here with Donald Trump? I mean, when you're looking at this, his celebrity status propelled him to become one of the major candidates, and we see how he systematically push aside 16 seasoned politicians. That's the beauty of the American policy. Push them aside. These are governors, these are senators, these are people with experience. And for somebody that's never held an office, for someone that's never participated in the political structure, in the political system, to attain the level that he's attained, it tells you how things work here. And having said that, You see, at the end of tonight, we would have a better understanding of who is winning and who is not. Of course, my vote will be for Hillary. The swing states you mentioned, I believe you mentioned Florida. My prediction is that Hillary will take, Florida. We're looking at North Carolina. That's a potential take as well. Look, Hillary needs 270 electoral votes, to win. My projection will be for up to 280, if not 290 electoral college votes. That's what she's going to get. By Wednesday, everybody will be celebrating here, and I'm sure you'll be monitoring. I have no problem. I have no doubt, rather, that the election will turn in favor of the Democrats.
All right. Honorable Anthony Afolo, joining us via Skype from New Jersey. We'd like to thank you. I'm sure there are viewers out there who share the optimism. 66 electoral college votes up for grabs in Florida, provided we don't have the hanging charts that we had in year 2000. Much for being part of our discussion this morning.
Hanging charts anymore.
Right, and let's turn very quickly to Ambassador Bulus Lolo at Kaduna Network Center. Your closing thoughts. Worst case scenario, best case scenario. Where would the world be assuming we had the worst case scenario? The Russians have been quiet, but there have been reports about what they are alleged to have done. As a diplomat, what would be your take on this?
Number one, if Trump does not win Florida, his dream of becoming U.S. president would go in smoke, and he must win. Second, Trump has a more difficult task to reach 270, whereas it is a lot easier for Hillary Clinton. But come what may, tomorrow morning, we will know that indeed history has been made. Trump came into this election as an enigma. And that was what even gave him the ticket in the first place, because the celebrity status, as we were just told, propelled him to demolish 16 seasoned politicians. And if it is Hillary Clinton who becomes the president, as many seem to hope and wish in Nigeria, then she too would have made that history that she began in 2008. She said she cracked the glass ceiling, broke it in more than 12 million pieces. Now, she stands just an inch away from realizing her lifelong dream. It didn't matter that her husband at one time was president. Today, everybody is looking in her direction. And if it is Clinton that becomes the president of the United States, we will see greater moderation in the action of America, even though there will be interventionists. We will also see measured approach to issues. And we are going to see an America that will still remain engaged, but at the same time will calculate before they act. I say this against the backdrop of Libya, which is a legacy that almost dogged Clinton during the electoral process, but that will be history by the time she she celebrates her victory if she emerges the winner tomorrow. As for Nigeria, I believe we have to really prepare ourselves to respond to the new America that we will be seeing. But my hope and prayer is the world will be a lot safer. We'll win our battle against terror. We'll win our battle against climate change. And we'll be more supportive of integration and development across the board for all people and humanity.
All right, thank you very much, Ambassador Bulus Lolo. Always a joy talking to you. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria today. Nigeria today. All right, we also want to say a very big thank you to Obo Efanga, Governance Program Manager, Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
And finally, a very big thank you to Dr. Aliyu Idihong. He is a former Minister of State Foreign Affairs. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
All right, and don't forget that on the NTA tonight, U.S. election decides starts at 10:30. Nigeria's perspective, Africa's perspective, and of course everything you need to know about this election, how it's playing out tonight at 10:30, throughout the night till about the early hours, up until Good Morning Nigeria tomorrow. Of course, by then we would already know who the new president of the United States is. But then, just before we go, let's take a very quick look at the weather prospect for the remaining part of the day.
Hello and welcome. As the Harmattan season is established, we advise you limit your exposure to dust so as to checkmate its excessive inhalation, which could be hazardous to health. And onto the weather forecast. Dust haze is still expected to dominate the northern cities and the central region, but a moderate visibility of 2 to 5 kilometers. And this condition should persist in the next 24 hours. Then partly cloudy skies are anticipated in the inland cities of the south during the forecast period. And for the coastal belt, a cloudy morning we anticipate with isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon. I am Imara Joyce Inchom. Here is the temperature forecast.
And that's how it's been on Good Morning Nigeria today, this very beautiful Tuesday morning. My name is Rhoda Albo. The program returns again tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Kingsley Osadollah. I join Rhoda in thanking you for starting your day with us. And remember, wherever the rest of the day takes you, it begins with us here on Good Morning Nigeria. See you tomorrow.